You see what others don't. You understand what Ripple's going to do with their technology, the fact that BlackRock is going to tokenize every stock, every bond, every asset they can get their hands on. Coinbase, they're panicking. Charles Hoskinson, he's having a full-blown meltdown here, believing the Clarity Act won't get done. It's a negotiation, people. It is a fight from traditional banking and the next generation of financial services, but understand who's going to win this fight. And they will have to bend the knee, and this will happen. Yes, we have some last-minute negotiations happening, but this is too big. It is too far along to stop. This will get done. Let's take a look at what's going on. A lot going on out there. JP Morgan predicting that we will see continued ETF inflows in 2026. This is following a record-breaking 2025 where we saw 130 billion. This is going to have a huge compounding effect on the values of these assets, specifically for newer ETFs. XRP is just getting started, and it's been big, and it's only going to continue to get bigger as we have this supply shock, as they vacuum up a lot of this available supply. Demand's going up, supply is going down. You know what that means here, right? And the big story of the day, Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong says Coinbase cannot support the Senate Banking crypto bill as it's written right now. And it's not going to get passed as written. Don't fool yourself 1 second. This is too important. It will get fixed up. Now, we're not going to get everything. You understand that. We're dealing with government here. We are negotiating with, again, traditional banks, giants of industry. We're not going to get everything we want, but we will get what we need. You best believe that. Before we continue here, make sure you join the Zhao Dow, the first DAO in XRP ledger history. Use your Salmon wallet, your Bifrost wallet, $10 for a lifetime membership. You pay it in XRP. You get to take part in future profits of the DAO and also have a voice. Participate in this blockchain and make this the most decentralized blockchain in the history of crypto. Big deal. Links down below to the Zhao DAO and also in the pinned comment. Join today with your Salmon wallet, your Bifrost wallet. Join this revolution. Now, let's kind of unpack this because it's interesting. Eleanor Terra. Some of the crypto industry's leading firms and trade associations are coming out in support of this bill, the market structure bill, this evening after Coinbase came out against it. So far, we've seen endorsements from A16, Circle, Kraken, Ripple, quite a few big players out here, right? It doesn't totally mean that Ripple doesn't care about some of the things that need to be updated or Circle, but there's different ways to approach this. Do you throw a fit? Do you throw your hands up? Do you walk away? Or do you continue to fiercely negotiate here? And I think that's how you get it done, right? That's how you get this thing done. They spent good money. They're going to get their way. They're going to get what they need. And make no mistake, there's some problems, some significant problems with the way things are currently written. But it's not over. It's still a negotiation, and there's quite a few things here on the table, I think. We see here, this is the CPO from Coinbase, and he says, overall, it's a very impressive piece of legislation, but it's got some real problems, but he's confident it's going to get fixed. So this isn't Brian Armstrong. This is their CPO. Let's listen to what he has to say, because there's a lot here to be excited about.
It is generally a very good piece of legislation, but there's some real issues within it that Senator Lummis, Chairman Scott, others are aware of, and we're working with them to try to address them. I'll give you one example. There's language in that effectively locks the SEC's hands and prevents them from taking the steps necessary to allow the tokenization of equity markets. I think that would be a big mistake. I'm not sure who would support that, but somehow.
And that's it right there. Who would support that? That's the future. RWAs, that's what your JP Morgans, your BlackRocks, all your big players, they want. They want to tokenize assets and take them on chain. That ain't going to stick around. And best believe, Ripple's going to get their way, BlackRock's going to get their way, JP Morgan's going to get their way. That is the future. We will move to autonomous stock exchanges, all the cost savings, all the efficiencies. That's going to happen. So when this thing gets done, it ain't going to stay like that. The fact that you can't tokenize securities, come on. That's the whole point of the endeavor here, what we're doing. Now, Brian Armstrong says, you know what? We've reviewed the Senate banking draft over the last 48 hours. Remember, that's what it is. It's a draft. Coinbase, unfortunately, can't support as written. De facto ban on tokenized equities. That's a big one. They're going to fix that. Again, DeFi prohibitions, giving government unlimited access to financial records. I do worry about that because we know government, right? They want to dig into everything. Unfortunately, we may get some stuff like that. We'll have to work around it. And remember this, true DeFi, they can't stop anyway. We'll do what we want. This is about integration into traditional finance. That's what we need this for, not for doing other things. We don't need permission to use permissionless systems, right? This is kind of the Trojan horse. Let us through the door, and this thing's going to scale so big, it is stupid. Erosion of the CFTC authority, stifling innovation, and making it subservient to the SEC. Right now, that's not a problem, right? Right now, the SEC is quite friendly, but it may not always have that same makeup. So we want to make sure that we really pull the SEC out of this stuff, unless it really is a security offering. We're wrapping the token and, doing something, back to the Howey test, right? That's always going to be a deal. And lastly, the last thing they mention is what they care about the most: draft amendments that would kill rewards on stablecoins. And I think that would be for non-banking institutions, and it's probably the way they care. Coinbase isn't a bank. Ripple probably will be. Almost certainly will be. So will Circle and some of these other ones. So they're probably like, hey, we can do this anyway. We're fine with it. But, Coinbase, that's a big business of theirs. You hold your stable coins, you earn your interest. And, they keep using this community bank nonsense, try to tug at the heartstrings. The poor community banks, there's no data that shows this will affect community banks in the slightest at all. And so that's just a bunch of nonsense, but it will affect your major banks. Now, Brad Garlinghouse has the following: long overdue. This is a big move by Senator Tim Scott and the banking GOP on the market structure bill. It's a massive step forward in providing workable frameworks for crypto while continuing to protect consumers. So that's what it's about: protections and also, certainty with what the law is. Ripple and I know firsthand that clarity beats chaos, and this bill's success is crypto success. Remember this: we got bigger problems than just earning interest on stablecoins, right? It wasn't that long ago where they're trying to put Coinbase out of business for selling crypto. They're trying to put Ripple out of business. We've come a long ways, but we need to codify that so we never return to that type of environment. That matters more than anything. That has to get done. We're at the table. This is the important part, and we will continue to move forward with fair debate. So they're still working on this, right? I remain optimistic that issues can be resolved through markup process. Now, that markup process has been delayed. With Coinbase, throwing a fit, throwing their hands up, we're not going to get everything. Understand that. We'll get what we need. And that's really what's important here. Cointelegraph here. U.S. community banks are urging Congress to tighten the Genius Act, warning that exchange-paid stablecoin rewards exploit a loophole that could pull deposits away from local banks. Again, a lot of nonsense here. There is absolutely no data that shows that's a fact. They're just making that up out of thin air because it's a good story. Lastly here, again, we got Charles. Guy's smart. Guy knows a lot. I think he's panicking a bit here, but he says we missed our window. Charles Hoskinson says crypto will be stuck in ambiguity until 2029. He's looking at the midterms, probably the makeup of the presidency, the Senate, the House after the midterms. He ain't going to get anything done in that type of environment. He's calling for the firing of David Sachs and Pete Hegseth. I don't know what Pete Hegseth has to do with it all, but Charles is mad here. I get it. We've been through this so many times. It doesn't happen, but that hasn't been what we've seen lately. We got all of those court cases, swept away. We got the stablecoin bill done, even though big banks are trying to walk some of that back. They're not going to get it. Things are happening quickly in this industry. We forget how far we came when ADA was being named in lawsuits, and they're just lucky. This guy's lucky he wasn't personally sued like Ripple and Brad and Chris, because it could have happened, and it would have happened if that environment continued. Just washing away all of those court cases, getting rid of them, that alone is worth its price of admission here. It's only going to get better. We're going to get this Clarity Act done. We already got the Stable Coin Act done. We're sitting in prime position here. It's all going to work out. Not worried at all. Let me know what you think down below, though. Will it happen this year? Again, make sure you join the Zhao Dow. Link in the description. Link down in the pinned comment as well. As always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.